Shabbat Shalom, very warm welcome to Finchley Progressive Synagogue, to the few of us who are here in the sanctuary, and to all of you who are on Zoom at home. At this point, I'd like to invite you to join us in all the singing and reading. We can't hear you, but at least you are not forced to wear a mask. We start with Matovu, with service number 1, which is on page 105 in our Siddur. As we say the prayers of our ancestors, help us, O God, to remember their faith and devotion, their joy and suffering, and make us worthy of our heritage. May the tradition we have received live in us and pass from us to generations we shall never know, enriched by the truth we have found and the good we have done. So may we fulfill our task on earth and receive our blessing. יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, שתרגלנו בתורתך ודבקנו במצוותיך. May we never consent to evil or surrender to temptation or self-contempt. Help us to rise above selfishness and make us responsive to the voice of conscience. Direct our every impulse to your service. Today, and every day may we merit kindness and compassion in your sight and in the sight of all who behold us, and let us know your love. Baruch atah Adonai, gomel chasadim tovim. Please read with me in Hebrew. Baruch Shamar v'haya haolam baruch hu. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam המחולל בפי עמו, משובח ומפואר בלשון חסידיו ועבדיו. בשבחות ובזמירות נגדל לך ונמליכך מלכנו, יחיד העולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מהולל בתשבחות.
אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יהללוך סלה. אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו. ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה.
Please stand.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו. שיר ושבחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בשירי זמרה. ברוך הוא את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך בעולם ועד.
Please be seated and read with me. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל, המאיר לארץ ולדרים עליה ברחמים, ובטובו מחדש בכל יום תמיד מעשה וראשית. מה רבו מעשיך אדוני, כולם בחוכמה עשית, מלאה הארץ קנייניך. תתברך אדוני אלוהינו על שבח מעשה ידיך ועל מאורי אור שעשית, יבררוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצר המאורות. אהבה רבה אהבתנו, אדוני אלוהינו, חמלה גדולה ויתרה המלת עלינו. Our ancestors trusted in you and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Israel be'ahava. Please stand for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשבתך בקומך, וקשרתם לעוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכרפתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אמת ויציב וישר וקיים וטוב ויפה הדבר הזה עלינו לעולם ועד. אמת שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, מלכנו, מלך אבותינו, יוצרנו, צור ישועתנו, פודנו, מצילנו לעולם הוא שמך. אין אלוהים זולתך. אמת אתה הוא ראשון ואתה הוא אחרון, ומבלעדיך אין לנו מושיח. ממצרים גאלתנו אדוני אלוהינו, ומבית עבדים פדיתנו. משה ומרים ובני ישראל, לך אנו שירה בשמחה רבה, ואמרו כולם.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף
שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמחה על שפת הים. יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו.
אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, בוא עלינו אדוני צבאות שמו, בוא עלינו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל.
מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע.
ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאיך.
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו.
כבודו מלא עולם.
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
במקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. אשיבך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל מלך גדול, הקדוש ברוך הוא. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש.
ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Please be seated. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good.
Yismachu b'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismachu b'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadashei Shavi Shabbat. Kulam yismu v'yitamgu mituvecha Shabbat. Yismachu b'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismachu b'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdat yamim oto karabta Shabbat. Yismachu b'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismachu b'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Zecher l'maseh b'reshit Shabbat. Zecher l'maseh b'reshit Shabbat. Yismachu b'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismachu b'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, רצה במנוחתנו, קודשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך. סבנו מטובך, משמחי בישועתך, וטהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת. והנחילנו, אדוני אלוהינו, באהבה וברצון שבת קודשך. ינועו וישראל מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל, ותפילתם באהבה תקבל, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, שאותך לבדך ביראה נעבוד. מודים אנחנו לך, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו, מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך על חיינו המסורים בידיך ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלאותיך וטובותיך שבכל עת ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך ולך נאה להודות.
Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova ubracha, chin v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ועל כל ישראל ועל כל העמים. שים שלום, שים שלום.
Let's take a moment for prayer or reflection.
Ose shalom bimroma, Ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Ose shalom bimroma, Ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel.
We're going now to the Torah service, which you find on page 481.
Ein kamocha va'elohim Adonai ve'ein k'ma'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha b'kol dor vador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlul Adonai iti, unuromema Shemo yachdav. Lecha Kol bashamayim u'ba'aretz le'Adonai ha'bracha v'mitnaseh le'kol le'rosh.
Right, the hardest part done. I found my place. So today we are in Parashat Tetzaveh. The name, as always, comes from one of the first words of the parasha, Tetzaveh, you shall command. And it opens with God instructing Moses in great detail how to appoint Aaron and his sons, his 4 sons, as priests. And then we go into very detailed and elaborate description of what the priests should wear. Well, I go through that, why not? Well, it's not for vanity, actually, because it says, make tunics, sashes, and turbans of fine embroidered linen for the sons of Aaron to give them dignity and glory. Kavod v'tiferet. So the priestly garments, for all of them, were to be Kohanim, consisted on a ketonet, which is like a sort of full-length linen tunic, and then they had michnasayim, like linen trousers, and then something called mitznefet, which is a turban, also made of linen, and then a sort of long sash across the wound above the waist. But when we come to the high priest, Kohen Gadol, then things become really spectacular. So he is wearing something called ephod, which is like a sort of apron garment, but don't think anything, suitable for the kitchen. It's because it's in beautiful colors, made of blue and purple and red. And the interesting thing about it is that it's made of wool and linen, which is the only occasion when and only high priest is allowed to mix those two fabrics, wool and linen. The laws of sharpness prohibit that. And then that is not enough, because on the top of that there is something called choshen, which is like a breastplate, and it has 12 precious stones, and each is inscribed with the name of with the names of the 12 tribes. Over that is a cloak made of blue wool, and it's actually, the hem is finished with bells and pomegranates, so you know when he's approaching. And then something quite mysterious called tzitz, not tzitz, which is like a golden some plate worn on the forehead, and it bears an inscription, holy to God. So that is quite, made quite an impression. But what I've been wondering about is that, like, when then we go on into the description of what the priest actually does. And there were 7 days of inauguration, and it was a pretty gory affair, because they slaughtered a ram, and then and also first a bull, and then that bull was partly burned for an offering called olah as it goes up, and then they took blood from the bull and sprinkled it on the Mishkan, and then on the 4 corners. And then what happened was that there were also 2 rams slaughtered, and they were partly burnt, partly cooked, and only Aaron and his sons were allowed to eat of it, so that was a big feast. And then we go into, in the same parasha, we've got something about Ner Tamid, which we naturally have, and every single synagogue for whatever, close to 3,000 years. Well, no, synagogues are not that old, but anyway, as long as we've had synagogues, we've had Ner Tamid. And also in the same parasha, which is quite long, we have instructions how to build an altar. We go slightly into that today. And also, in our portion, we have not Ner Tamid, but Ketoret Tamid, which is incense that is to be burnt for all generations. That bit we don't do. Right. that probably is enough. And Yamod, Yehuda ben Reuven, Uvatsheva, Likro HaTorah.
Thank you for drawing my attention to the garment being made of forbidden materials. I never really noticed that.
Yeah.
There's a nice idea why he had There's a nice idea why he had a rope round his waist. He's going someplace that nobody else could go, and he would wear this rope later in the temple. And there was a real danger of being, if I can want a better word, being zapped. And one of the ideas is he's wearing a rope round his waist in case he is zapped, in which case his now dead body can be poured out from the sanctuary or the Holy of Holies, because he's gone to a place where even other Kohanim, never mind Levites, and even less so ordinary Israelites, can't go. And this is also the reason why they think he's wearing bells round his garments, because then they can hear him moving about. And if the bells stop tingling, they can call in, "Are you okay?" And if he doesn't answer, they can then pull him out with the rope. And that way they can get him out without going someplace they can't go without being zapped. And also, because they're Kohanim, they can't touch a dead body.
Right.
So, A, they can get him out, and B, if he is dead, God forbid, they haven't touched him.
Oh, thank you very much, Adam. You see, we're learning every day.
That's one of the ideas, and being a kind of, I don't know what the word was, when I learnt that when I was about 14, it rather appealed to me.
It stayed with you. Yes, well, a lot of thought went into this whole ritual, we can say. So we'll start. It's, yeah.
Baruch et Adonai HaMavorach.
Baruch Adonai,
Baruch Adonai HaMavorach Leolam Varet. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'habanu mikol ha'olamim v'natah lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Sorry. וקידשתי את אוהל מועד ואת המזבח ואת אהרון ואת בניו אקדש לכהן לי ושכנתי בתוך בני ישראל והייתי להם לאלוהים וידעו כי אני אדוני אלוהיהם אשר הוצאתי אותם מארץ מצרים לשכני בתוכם אני אדוני אלוהיהם ועשית מזבח קטורת עצי שיטים תעשה אותו אמר כה ואמר רחבו רבוע יהיה ו200 קומתו ממנו קרנותיו וציפית אותו זהב טהור את גגו ואת קירותיו סביב ואת קרנותיו ועשית לו זר זהב סביב ושתי טבות זהב תעשה לו מתחת לזרו על שתי צלותיו תעשה על שני צידיו, והיה לבתים לשאת אותו בהמה. ועשית את הבדים עצי שיטים, וציפית אותם זהב, ונתת אותו לפני הפרוכת, אשר על ארון העדות לפני הכפורת, אשר על העדות, אשר יוועד לך שמה, והקטיר עליו אהרון קטורת סמים, בבוקר, והיטיבו את נרות יקטרנה, ובהעלות אהרון את הנרות בין ארבעים יקטרנה, כקטורת תמיד לפני אדוני לדורותיכם. לא תעלו עליו קטורת זרה ועולה ומנחה, ונסך לא תסחו עליו. והיפר אהרון על קרנותיו אחת בשנה, מדם חטאת הכיפורים. אחת בשנה יכפר עליו לדורותיכם, קדוש קדושים הוא לאדוני. So, I will consecrate the tent of meeting and the altar, and Aaron and his sons will be consecrated to serve me as priests. And I will live among the Israelites and be to them their God. And they will know that I, the Lord, am their God who brought them out of the land of Egypt to dwell among them. I, the Lord, am their God. And you shall make tabernacle, yes, for burning incense, made of acacia wood. You will make it of acacia wood, and it will be 1 cubit, which is like 50 centimeters from, it's counted from the elbow to the top of your fingers. 1 cubit long and 1 cubit wide. It will be square, and it will be 2 cubits high. And from it, of one piece, will come out its horns. And you will overlay it with pure gold, and its roof where its top, and its walls, its sides around, and the horns. You will make for the horns. You will make it's like a garland, a molding of gold around it, and you shall make 2 gold rings under it, under this molding, on 2 flanks and on opposite sides. It is getting a bit convoluted, but I haven't got a picture. And they will be for holders for poles on which to carry it. And then you make those poles also of acacia wood and overlay them with gold and place them before the curtain, which is on the Ark of Testimony, before the curtain, well, sort of whatever it is, another kind of covering, which is on the testimony, where I will meet with you, or talk with you. And on it, Aaron will burn incense, fragrant incense, samim, every morning while he's dressing the lamps, and he will burn this incense. And while Aaron is burning, and when he in the evening when he's lighting the lamps, the incense will also be burnt, and this was ketoret tamid, this sort of regular incense before God for all generations. And you must not offer on it ketoret zara, which we might remember esh zara, the sort of strange fire here, strange incense, or unauthorized, I suppose, or a burnt offering or a meal grain offering, and don't offer any libation, any drink on it. And Aaron will make atonement on the horns once a year with blood taken from the sin offering once a year, and so he will make atonement on it, and for all generations, and it will be most holy to Adonai, Lord, or we prefer the eternal.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'hayei olam l'tah b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
We have a Haftarah, which I was trying to find a connection between the Torah and the Haftarah, but it's a reading from Samuel. But I suppose that the only connection is that they both deal with sacrifices, even though this particular reading says that sacrifices are not really sufficient without obedience. Shall we?
Hagbar first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I give you space.
Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, B'kedushato.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bocha b'nviim tovim, v'otzei divrochem hane'emorim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah uv'moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
The word of the Eternal then came to Samuel. I regret that I made Saul king. He has turned from following me and has not carried out my command. And Samuel was distressed, and all night long he cried out to the Eternal. Early next morning, Samuel went to look for Saul. He was told that Saul was at Carmel, where he put up a monument for himself. Then he turned and went on down to Gilgal. When Samuel came to Saul, Saul said to him, "The Eternal bless you. I have carried out the Eternal's command." Samuel said, "How is it then that I hear sheep bleating and oxen bellowing?" Saul answered, "They were brought from the Amalekites. The troops spared the best sheep and oxen to be a sacrifice to the Eternal your God. The rest we consigned to destruction." "Stop. Let me tell you what the Eternal said to me last night," said Samuel to Saul. "Speak," he answered. Then Samuel said, "You may be small in your own eyes, but you are the head of the tribes of Israel. The Eternal anointed you king over Israel and sent you on a mission to consign those sinners, Amalek, to destruction, to wage war against them until you had made an end to them. Why did you not obey the Eternal's voice? Why did you pounce on the spoil, doing what was evil in the eyes of the Eternal?" And Saul said to Samuel, "I have obeyed the Eternal. I did go on the mission the Eternal sent me on. I captured King Agag of Amalek and consigned Amalek to destruction. And the people took of the spoil the best sheep and oxen, the best of what had been consigned to destruction, to sacrifice to the Eternal, your God, in Gilgal." Samuel said, "Does the Eternal delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of the Eternal? No, to obey is better than sacrifice, to listen than the fat of rams. Rebellion is as bad as witchcraft. Stubbornness is like wickedness and idolatry. Because you rejected the word of the Eternal God, God has rejected you as king." "I have sinned," said Saul to Samuel. "I should not have disobeyed the Eternal's command and your words, but I was afraid of the troops, so I obeyed their words. Please pardon my sin and come back to me to Gilgal so that I can worship the Eternal." But Samuel said to Saul, "I will not go back with you. You rejected the word of the Eternal, and the Eternal has therefore rejected you as king of Israel." Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol ha'olamim, tzadik b'kol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'emon ha'omer v'oseh, hamdeber umkayem shechol devorot emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah v'al ha'avodah v'al hamviim v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך וברחמים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Please stand for the community blessings. Thank you, Tamara.
Eternal God, we ask your blessing on our Queen Elizabeth and all the royal family, as well as those who govern our country. Guide them and all who govern with a spirit of wisdom and compassion, so that they care for the Let them know that you are near to comfort and sustain them. May peace exist in the state of Israel, soon and in our time. May you, eternal God, grant blessing to her, established as an age-old dream and home to the oppressed. May its leaders and citizens be inspired with the faithfulness to the aims of its founders, and may the country be imbued with the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice, always. May this Shabbat renew our energy to build and sustain a better world, and to deepen our gratitude for so much that surrounds us. And let us say, Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado. Olu haaretz v'shamayim, v'yarem keren v'yamot, teila lekol chasida, livnei Yisrael, Behold, a good doctrine has been given you. Do not forsake it. It is a tree of life to those who hold it fast, and all who cling to it find happiness. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths of peace. Please be seated. So once again, you'll be pleased to know that I won't be giving a sermon. One of these days. But we will be reading from the themed reading for this week, which is Light. You can find it on page 234 of your Siddur. Yes. And Robin will be reading it.
It's a responsive reading, so please join.
You shall command the Israelites to bring you pure oil of beaten olives, to cause a lamp to burn continually. So many good things depend on light, vision, safety, life itself, that is readily seen as benevolent. Darkness, by contrast, spells hidden danger and seems sinister. So we speak of the light of knowledge, reason, and redemption, and of the darkness of ignorance, superstition, and death. And it is tempting to attribute the two realms in two conflicting cosmic powers, as some religions have done. But Judaism has stood firm by its conviction that all that exists is the creation of one God. Let's read together. I am the eternal God, and there is no other. I form light and create darkness. I make well-being and create adversity. Nevertheless, it is with light that God is especially associated. It is a metaphor that seems naturally to describe the human experience of the divine. God's first act, according to the creation story, was the creation of light. The movement from darkness to light can be seen as the whole purpose of God's activity, both in the lives of individuals and in the life of humanity. History is one long battle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. And the Jewish task, symbolized by the Ner Tamid, is to diffuse the light of God's truth among the nations, so that the age of redemption may dawn. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
Moses looked, and the bush was aflame, yet it was not consumed. Then God called to him out of the bush.
You cover yourself with light as a garment.
In your light we shall see light.
For the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching a light.
The human spirit is the lamp of the eternal.
The path of the righteous is like the light of dawn, which shines ever more brightly until full day.
Light dawns for the righteous, and joy for the upright in heart.
O house of Jacob, come, let us walk by the light of the Eternal One.
I will make you a light to the nations, that my salvation may reach to the end of the world.
Our ancestors were called a leafy olive tree because as the olive yields oil that provides light, they gave light to all by their faith.
In every Jewish heart, a ner tamid, which is the light of God, should burn, not only in the synagogue during worship, but outside, in the marketplace, at work, in everyday life, and in all our dealings with others.
How can we speak of light when the world is dark? The question is not new.
Sentinel, what of the night? What of the night? The sentinel says, morning comes, and so does night.
Because the world is dark, all the more do we need to search for the light beyond us and within us and make it shine more brightly. As the hand held before the eye hides the tallest mountain, so this small earthly life hides from our gaze the vast radiance and mystery of which the world is full. And if you can take life's distractions from before your eyes, as one takes away one's hand, you will see the world's great radiance.
Into my heart's night, along a narrow way, I grope and lo the light, an infinite land of day.
In times of darkness, when my heart is grieved, when despair besieges my mind, and my days are a weariness of living, then is my life like the flower that struggles to grow where no ray of sun ever penetrates. Then is my spirit pent up within me, and my soul is shut in like a night of darkness. When such darkness overtakes me, O God, fortify my mind with trust in life.
In my great need for light, I look to you. Eternal God, help me to feel your presence, even when dark shadows fall upon me. When my own weakness and the storms of life hide you from my sight, help me to know that you have not deserted me. Uphold me with the comfort of your love. Give me trust, O God. Give me peace and give me light. May my heart find its rest in you.
Send out your light and your truth. Let them lead me. Let them bring me to your holy mountain and to your dwelling place.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now continue with the Aleinu, which you will find on page 520. Please stand.
Ain't
And it has been said, the eternal God shall rule over all the earth. On that day, the eternal God shall be one, and known to be one. It is hard to feel serene when our world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone. Yet in the emptiness of their passing leaves behind, Yet in the emptiness their passing leaves behind, we are not alone. For we have the companionship of the living, and even our loved ones who have died live on in our hearts, for what they were is part of what we have become. We honour them best when we live, as they would wish, responsibly and happy, even in the shadow of our loss, and so draw closer to the source of life, in whom every life finds meaning, purpose and hope. And this Shabbat, we remember the yahrzeit of Stanley and Mamie Berg, parents of Jean Stein, and Bernard Kempner, father of Jane Greenfield. May their memories be for a blessing. And let's say together on page 524, the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chilutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשו בריך הוא. כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, da amiran be'alma be'imru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shamayim, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol b'nei adam, ve'imru amen.
Moment of announcements, yes?
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome everyone to Finchley Progressive this morning. Whether you are old hands or newcomers, visitors or here for the first time, whether you're in the building with us or whether you are at home or wherever you may be from half term joining us this morning, we're so pleased to have you with us. Thank you so much to everyone who led the service. We're so fortunate to have such talented and wonderful lay leadership. Thank you, Wika. Thank you, of course, to our musicians, Dean and Franklin. And as I say, thank you to everyone who participated in the service this morning, to Jane and to Stanley, to Rabbi Adam Frankenberg, who so memorably illuminated for us not only the form but also the purpose of the priestly garments. I don't suppose any of us will forget that. Thank you so much, Martin, for reading this morning. Happy birthday. On behalf of all the congregation, we all wish you a very happy birthday. And thank you, Robin. And since it's quite a quiet week, I'm going to do something I'm not usually allowed to do, and to say thank you to all of our volunteers this morning who make it possible for us to hold the service. To our tech team, David, Paul here in the building, Josie and Valerie online, to our welcomers, Robin and Ofra, and to our security volunteers, Tony and Paul. And inevitably, I will have left someone out, so thank you to you two, and I'm really sorry if I omitted your name. So we have some community announcements this morning. We have what passes for a quiet week at FPS. So tomorrow morning at 10, Cafe Ivrea is meeting, and we'll be talking about being atheist and Jewish. What does it mean to be atheist and Jewish? On Monday at 4 o'clock, we have a social Zoom, so you can just come along for a natter if you would like to. And at 7 p.m, Adult Hebrew with Ofra. From Tuesday to Friday, as usual, there's morning meditation at 8:30. And on Wednesday, Hebrew with Etty at 1. Delving into Judaism is taking a break this week for half term, so there's no class for delvers this Wednesday. Looking a little further ahead, next Saturday, February the 19th, is the launch, the kickoff of our celebration of 120 years of liberal Judaism as a movement. And through the course of the year, we're going to be hosting services from different congregations, and we'll all have a chance to shine. But for this kickoff event, it's being hosted by LJS, the Liberal Jewish Synagogue, and we can join them either in person or online, and for that reason there'll be no service here next weekend on Shabbat morning, the 19th. On Thursday the 24th, we have a special Beit Midrash event, Worlds Apart, a conversation with author Nadia Ragozina, whose name I hope to pronounce correctly by the 24th. Nadia was born in Moscow. She moved to the UK in the year 2000, and she's now a senior journalist at BBC News. And she is going to be talking about the sort of voyage of discovery that she went on to find out about the story of her own family and its experiences through various challenging historical moments. So do come and join us for that. For Purim, we have a very unusual event. We've got a community car rally, followed by a tea and Megillah reading. It's going to be starting at 1 p.m. It's the 19th of March, I should have said that. It starts at 1 p.m. in the FPS car park. It's £15 a car, but you're encouraged to join up with other people to make up a team for a very unusual local treasure hunt. And if you'd like to register for that or find out more about it, please email zoe@fps.org. Just a reminder to fill out our community survey. It's on the email. Please fill out all the sections all the way to the very end. It will help us to make sure that everything that we do is really meeting your interests and needs. And finally, this month, for Valentine's month, as it were, we have a special Valentine's theme for food collections for the food bank. You can leave donations for the food bank at any time in the collection box, which is in the porch here. And this month's theme is food that you love. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom. Our service concludes with Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yetzir Nivra Le'et Nasa V'Etz Okol Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kiklot Hakol Levado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hodeh V'hu Yeh B'tifarav V'hu Echad Ve'ein Sheni Lehamshil Lo Lehakbira V'li Reshit V'li Taklit V'lo Ha'oz V'ha'misra V'hu Eli V'chai Mo'ali V'tzotev Li V'eit Zara V'hu Nisi Umanos Li V'nat Kosi V'yom Ekra V'yado Avkid Ruchi V'et Ishan V'ha'ira V'im Ruchi V'vi'ati Adonai Li V'lo Ira. Do we have a final blessing? Let's have a final blessing before we go into Kiddush. Our God and God of our ancestors, bless us with the threefold benediction of the Torah. May God bless you and keep you. May God look kindly upon you and be gracious to you. May God reach out to you in tenderness and give you peace. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to us here. We've got beautiful challahs, and to everybody at home, take your drink and challah, if you have one, to hand.
Has everybody got? V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, l'dorotam berit olam, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam, ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz, Uvayom hashvi
Shabbat vayinafash. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.